Hi, I'm Rebecca, I'm the Psych coach, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how you can be more resilient. I will give you 5 psychological strategies for you to put in place so you can start feeling more resilient. The self-help industry is bursting with books, all giving you ideas on how you can feel better about yourself and be more resilient. But listen up, because I will give you 5 tips that will really help you do this. Tip Number 1, when you're feeling stressed, remind yourself you can cope. We are programmed when we're feeling stressed and we're not feeling particularly resilient to think this is awful, I can't cope with it all, but you can. Even horrid amounts of pressure we can cope with. So try and hold in your mind, I can cope. Tip number 2 is to engage in rational priming. Now, rational priming is a psychological strategy where people essentially give themselves a rational talking to. Before we deal with stressful events, if we feel particularly low in confidence and not very resilient, we're not going to be thinking very healthily. We're certainly not going to be thinking in a positive way. And what will often happen is our brain will get flooded with really negative thoughts about, I can't do this, I'm no good at this, I'm not able to cope, people aren't going to listen to me, I haven't got a voice in this, why does my opinion matter? And all of those things will stop you from doing what you need to do. So remind yourself of your ability to cope, as well as giving yourself a bit of a rational talking to. I've been here before, I know how to deal with this is tricky, but I can manage it. Once this is done, I'm going to give myself a big reward and a pat on the back. Succeeding in this will be a huge triumph. All of that stuff that's a pep talk to get you through. It's not positive. I'm not telling you to tell yourself that you absolutely love this really difficult situation, but give yourself a pep talk to see you through it, because that's the role of a therapist. That would be the role of a friend. That could be the role of a loved one who would give you a boosting conversation. And if you can learn to give yourself boosting conversations and you can learn the art of rational priming, it will go a long way to helping you feel more resilient each day. Tip number 3 is to focus on what you're dealing with right now. Often we can focus into the future, an hour ahead, a week ahead, a month ahead, and that can get us really anxious. And of course, if we're feeling anxious and stressed, we're not going to be feeling resilient. So try and focus on what you're dealing with in the here and now. Rein your anxieties back in, rein your obsessive thinking in about what might happen today, tomorrow, the next hour, the next year, and think about what am I dealing with right in front of me. By living in the present and focusing on the here and now, you're going to help yourself be more resilient, because you're not going to spend so much time focusing on what might happen in the future. It's exhausting, it doesn't help resilience, and it certainly doesn't help self-confidence. Tip number 4 for boosting resilience: maintain perspective. Now, I don't mean that to belittle the difficulties you're experiencing. I don't mean to say that you should tell yourself you're silly for feeling stressed or depressed or frustrated about something when other people are suffering more. But maintaining perspective on the severity of the situation and telling yourself, this is bad, but I've definitely coped with worse, or this is bad, but it could definitely be even worse, will help calm you down and be more resilient. Now, if you're going to maintain perspective on a situation, keep it relative to what you're dealing with. If, for example, you're particularly anxious about a meeting you have to have, you could think to yourself, it's bad that I've got to deal with this, but it's not terrible. What would be even worse if I knew the meeting was going to go on for 3 hours. If you're feeling particularly bad about having not been invited out with a group of friends, you can tell yourself, okay, this is bad, I've not been invited out, but it would be even worse had I not been invited out all week or all month or by my other friendship group. So you just keep perspective relative to what you're dealing with, but by really buying into the fact that it could be worse, you calm yourself down a bit, thus increasing resilience. And tip number 5, stop beating yourself up. Constantly walking around with a stick that you beat yourself up with is not going to boost your resilience. Boosting resilience is about thinking well of yourself, carrying yourself in a confident way, dealing with situations in a confident way. But that's really difficult to do if you're constantly beating yourself up. So instead of beating yourself up, think of yourself as a capable person. Think of yourself as a competent person. Think of yourself as fallible. You make mistakes, but that's okay. We all do. The art of being resilient is getting back on the horse again as soon as you've fallen off. Resilience isn't about not dealing with adversity. Resilience is about bouncing back from adversity. And if you can put these 5 strategies into place when the chips are down, when things don't go well, you will be best able to boost yourself back up again quickly if you've been practicing these 5 tips regularly. If you've enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I will give you plenty more psychological strategies on how to live a psychologically healthy existence.